What's up, guys? Welcome back to Daniel Talks Football right here on YouTube. I'm Daniel and we are back with another podcast. It's been a little while. Since last podcast. We didn't have one last week. We had one the week before. There were back-to-back podcasts. Took a week off last week, but we are back this week with a very, very special guest. But we'll get onto him in a second. Before we do get onto said very, very special guest, please make sure to like the video, like the podcast, comment down below and also subscribe to the channel. Go over and follow the Instagram and the TikTok, Daniel Talks Football on both. I can't remember the last time I posted to the TikTok. Will I ever again? Probably not. Still go and follow it. I'm definitely not going to post no again. I really cannot be bothered. Moving on to the guest we have on the line. Now, he has 10.6 thousand followers on Instagram. He is a very, very special friend of mine. Is there anything else I need to say? He's also got 49.2 thousand followers on TikTok, and it's Leicesterfanz. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, buddy. Very good. Very good, mate. Am I very good? We've picked up 8 points from 48.
Huh?
We've picked up 8 points from 48. I don't think I can say I'm very good. I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
We're living.
We're just here waiting for our fate to be announced, which is probably Bristol City away. We're going to touch on all of that and more in this podcast. I've been trying to get this done for a little while. The only reason it hasn't happened is because fans has gone to me, Daniel, I don't want to make myself more depressed, which is fair enough. It is quite depressing. And if we're speaking about depressing, we might as well get straight into it with the first topic of the podcast, and that is the downfall of Leicester City. So why were Leicester so successful in the first place then?
There's a lot of factors, really. Obviously, if you're going back as far as the Premier League title, then, there's the scouting and, the team spirit and all of that. But if we're talking about last few years, it's a similar kind of thing, really. But I put largely down to scouting. We signed a lot of good players for cheap that turned out to be amazing. So we got like Soyuncu, Maddison, Tielemans. You could go on. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of players who not many people knew who we signed who then turned out to be very good. I think that's a large factor. Another factor is the manager.
Yes.
I know Rodgers, it hasn't gone well for him this last 18 months, and obviously he's no longer a manager. But when we brought him in, he still is a top coach, but when we brought him in, he did a very good job of us. And he's a large part as to why we were so successful, because he was one of the best managers at the time. He fizzled out recently, but the management was great for his first 2 years. Mm-hmm. And you could put it down to the owner, partly. Back then, we had a good system of selling a big player each summer.
For sure.
Which I think, as much as it's gutting saying goodbye to a big player each year, you don't want to see him go, but that kind of suited us as a club, because then we could reinvest it into other talents that not many people knew. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a factor as well. Recently, we didn't actually do that. We sold for fine last summer, but the summer before
we didn't.
I don't think. No. And we didn't really reinvest as well. But I'm getting off the question now. Mm. But yeah, I put down to scouting, management, and what was the other thing?
Owner.
Owner, yeah.
Mm. And that lack of selling a big player, I think that's where the downfall started. Because you look at that summer, we spent, what was it, 60-odd million pounds between Vestergaard, Soumare and Daka. We also brought in Ryan Bertrand and then Ademola Lookman on a loan transfer. The only one of those players who I actually properly thought was worth it was Lookman, and we couldn't even afford to spend 12 million on him the following summer. that was where the downfall started, am I wrong? Because we didn't sell a big player that summer, and the players we brought in, somebody like Soumare, not good enough, I think it's fair to say. Fans are still struggling to figure out what the actual point of him is, because he doesn't offer energy, he doesn't win the ball back, he doesn't progress the ball, he doesn't do anything. Dak has been inconsistent. Vestergaard and Bertrand, well, do I need to tell you? Have they played in the Prem this season? I genuinely don't think so. So, do you think it all started at that summer?
Yeah, I'd say so. Obviously, Rodgers had those two very good seasons, two fifth place seasons, and at the end of the 21 season, won the FA Cup. That was probably our peak. The day we won the FA Cup, and then from that moment on, it went downhill. Obviously, we bottled the top four, which was a big loss for the club. At the time, obviously it was gutting, but we still have things to look forward to. But I think that was a big moment in the start of our downfall. And then from then, the transfer window weren't great. We did spend money, but we didn't sell a big player. No. We probably should have sold Tielemans that summer.
Yeah.
Got money, and then we should have reinvested it better, to be honest. But I reckon if we did finish in the top four, we would have reinvested it better. But still, we shouldn't, some of the players we signed, if we signed better players that summer, I don't think we'd be in as big as a mess as we are now.
No.
But yeah, you look at the transfers of Vestergaard and Bertrand, they're just ridiculous, Soumare, I can understand at the time. He's been a flop.
Yes.
But at the time, he did have potential, but it's not worked out. Patson Daka, I'd say he's a rough diamond. He's got the potential. He has his moments, but he's just he's not. I don't think he's not quite cut out for this league.
No.
Just yet.
He's been really good in Europe.
Yeah, he's not really he's very, very good for his previous club, but for us, he's not quite been the same. He's not quite took off how we've expected him to, but yeah, he's had his moments.
For sure.
And the best signing out of the lot, it wasn't even a signing, it was a loan. Lookman, that was the best one of the lot, and we didn't even sign him. So,
no.
But yeah, I definitely say that summer was the start of the downfall for sure.
And we've slowly touched on it there with some of the transfers that were brought in, but whose fault is the failure? Obviously, it's really difficult to pin it on certain people. But would you put the blame at the door of Rodgers? Would you put it at the door of the owner? Would you put it to the scouts? Who is to blame here?
It's a tough question because there's so many people working in and around the club, and quite frankly, it could be a lot of people's fault. But if we're talking about that summer, you could say you put it down to scouts, but I heard recently that Rodgers actually pushed for the Vestergaard and Bertrand transfers, even when analysts advised him not to. So,
who then proceeded to leave the football club, and these were analysts that helped to win the club the Premier League.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, Rodgers in that aspect, I think he's a bit to fault. Moving on a bit, I think this season, I think Top, our chairman's slightly at fault for, he should have sacked Rodgers much, much earlier. He's left it way too late. Look at Aston Villa at the start of the season. They sacked their manager when they're in a similar position to us. Now they're pushing on for Europe. We've left it way too late all season. We should have done it much earlier.
Sure.
And who knows where we'd be now if we got a manager in earlier on in the season.
Yeah. And you've touched on a couple of people there. I want to dive into two people, specifically Brendan Rodgers and the owner, Top. Let's start with Top, because is he too soft? And I'm going to detail a couple of things here that makes me think he's too soft to be a football owner. I want to preface all this by saying I love Top. What him and his dad have done for the football club has been simply excellent. And I'm not saying he's not a nice guy, but this needs to be said because he does need to be criticised because he has made many poor decisions. It starts with, for me, let's be honest, it starts with that initial Brendan Rodgers contract. We gave him, when he resigned, it was a 5.5-year deal, I want to say. That's stupid, no matter how good a manager is performing. And I know at that time we were only looking at it going, all right, so a big club will have to spend more to buy him out. Fair enough. But you don't give managers 5.5-year deals. That isn't done in football. You look at Newcastle, was it with Alan Pardew, who they gave like an 8-year deal to, sacked him after a year, and then they were paying him off for all of that time after he had gone. I think it starts there, but it then continues through to the Ryan Bertrand deal. We only wanted to give this player a 1-year contract. He pushed for 2, with an option of a third, let's not forget. There's still the option of the third year if the club wants to take it up, which I'm sure they won't. But he managed to get a 2-year deal out of us, which was crazy, because we only wanted to give him 12 months. And then, obviously, there's the weaknesses in sacking Rodgers, which we'll get onto when we do discuss Brendan. But the last one is this summer, where he was so, I don't want to say scared of the FFP regulations, but he was so careful with not breaking them when other clubs go out and do it and seem to get away with it, or with very, very little punishment. He was so scared not to break them that he didn't. And now that means we're possibly going to be looking into the Championship. How much do you think Top is to blame for all of this?
Yeah, it's tough to say because, you know, him and his father, they've done so much for the club. Vichai, I mean, he took us to new levels.
Sure.
And then, obviously, Top's taken over. He's done a good job. Like, I don't want to say he's not, but I don't think he's got the same ruthlessness that Vichai had. Like, Vichai, he sacked Ranieri the year after we won the league because we were in trouble. Top didn't sack Rodgers soon enough, you know, the year after we won the FA Cup. You know, it's a similar kind of position and scenario, but he didn't take action. Which yeah, he was sort of saying, you know, we didn't sack you because you did a good job. You've done a good job for us. You know, he wasn't really looking for the future. I think he's just been a bit soft. Last summer, obviously, the transfer window was awful. You know, we had a massive squad, and we had the FFP issues. Some would look at it and say it's smart that we didn't, you know, get into financial trouble, but others would look at it and say we should have just spent, you know, like we needed players. But that one's a tough one because, you know, you don't want to get into financial trouble, you know. And now we're free from it, but maybe it's a little bit late now. But yeah, I do agree that potentially he is a little bit soft. And yeah, I'm not sure how he's let it get this bad, in all honesty.
No, and again, to touch on that, there are ways to get around that, though. You know, something like a loan with a obligation to buy at the end of it. That was what Atalanta wanted for Boga. And we sort of went, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to pay 20 million. We don't want to be forced into paying 20 million. That's fair enough. But also, if you're in financial trouble, at least it's a new player. Do you look at it and think, you know, we should have gone for those? I don't think Boga's been particularly excellent this season in Serie A, so I'm not trying to say that he was the one. But there are ways to get around it, and Top not doing that, does it seem ignorant from you that we are too good enough to go down, which obviously we're not?
I think, yeah, a little bit. The way it seemed, you know, especially with Rodgers as well, all season they've kind of just been thinking, oh, we're going to be fine. Like, you know, until Dean Smith's come in. Dean Smith's obviously, you know, he's been real. You know, he's been saying, like, you know, he knows our situation and he knows we're in a relegation fight. But I think with Rodgers and Top, you know, I'm not sure they quite knew. Well, maybe they did know, but they never said, like, they never admitted, like, how bad of a situation we're in, you know. And I do think it is ignorance a little bit. Like, I don't want to disrespect Top or anything, but I just feel like, you know, he could have done more to stop this.
For sure. And then we can move on to the other big person at fault. We can move into some things within that and within Top, which we'll go on to sort of in a second. But Brendan Rodgers, how much is he at fault for this? Is it, you look at his interviews. That's one thing I want to touch on. His interviews has obviously been horrendous this whole time. Constantly, even once the summer window had ended, saying he wants new players. Well, you're not going to get them, Brendan. So shut up. Is the honesty of the situation. The window's gone, so you're not getting new players. His tactics at times this season. His isolation of certain players. Look at somebody like Kaglosunchu, who has been brought straight back in under Dean Smith. He was just expelled more or less from the first team and just pretended like he wasn't there. How much is Brendan Rodgers at fault for this downfall?
Largely at fault, I'd say. If I had to say one name who's at fault the most, I'd say him. I do want to say that it's not all his fault, because I think the players themselves could have done a lot better. And they haven't given it everything at all times. I have felt sorry for him a little bit, like he hasn't obviously been able to spend in the summer. I do feel like a lot of it is his fault. This season, like, we've just dropped off, and he's just not motivated the players at all. Like, they're never up for the fight. They're just all so soft, and poor tactics and poor substitutions. I do think a lot of it is for him to blame. And the Soyuncu thing, it's just crazy. Like, how we've got a player he's probably going to be off to Atletico in the summer, playing European football, playing at the top level. Like, how we've had him not even play this year, except from obviously yesterday against Man City.
He's barely played.
He's barely played, and that's shocking management from Brendan Rodgers, because we've got a top class player there, top class defender, and he's been playing the likes of Daniel Amati over him. Like, I just think that case in particular is ridiculous, and I think a lot of it is to blame for Brendan Rodgers.
And then I guess the last person that we have to look at is, and I don't want to pin this will be a mix of top, directors of football. You could look at John Rodkin, you could look at Susan Whelan, and you could also look at Brendan Rodgers for this. But the contracts being handed out to these players, how much has this deterred us, and how much has this contributed to the downfall? Because some of these contracts have been horrendous. I mean, for an example, £70,000 a week for Ryan Bertrand for a 2-year deal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Some of these people giving out these deals, I don't even know who it is, to be honest. But you look at our wage bill, it's just ridiculous. You've got like Luke Thomas is on like 60-70 grand a week. He's not even the worst of the lot, but then you've got obviously Vestergaard and Bertrand, who are on crazy numbers. Obviously the Rodgers deal itself was ridiculous. 10 million a year, third highest paying manager in the league. Mental, yeah. And then I think the length of the contracts, you look at the Tielemans one. Like, how have we let it get to the point where he's going to go on a free this summer? Soyuncu as well, and Maddison's going to be in his last year, so we're not going to get as much from him this summer. But it's just crazy, these deals. Like, I think it's really, really poor.
For sure. And then this has been very depressing, so we will bring up the mood again. How do we return to the former glory days? That's such a tough question. I'm sorry, because if you knew it, you'd be employed by the club. But
exactly. I think a serious rebuild is needed. That consists of selling almost half the team. Obviously, whether we stick with Dean Smith or go for someone like Potter for a long-term plan, I don't know. But it really depends if we stay up or go down. If we go down, I think obviously most of the players will leave. There'll be a big rebuild. We'll still have a decent team in the Championship. We'll have to have a good transfer window. Obviously, hopefully get promoted in the first year. And then from there, I guess it's, scouting and recruitment. Obviously we need a good manager. But the way we got to success in the first place was a lot of it was scouting. but the team needs to have togetherness. I think if we stay up, this summer obviously rebuild as well, but bring in some slightly bigger players. Obviously, if we were to go down, we wouldn't be able to bring in as bigger players.
No.
But if we stay up, then that would be massive for the club, because then, we could then look to rebuild and be in Europe in a few years' time. Which that is a big statement. But
It's possible.
yeah, it's such a hard question because obviously the scout needs to be good, new manager needs to be good, and I think the main point, the main reason why we could get to where we would be is the rebuild this summer, to be honest. Because if we don't have a good rebuild, then it's going to be very, very hard. If we have a very good rebuild this summer, then I think that's the key to us getting back.
And then last but not least, if the club does go down, I don't want to say would it be good for the club, because obviously no relegation for a club ever is good, but you do look at some sides who have gone down to the Championship. Let's take Burnley, for example. Gone down and is about straight back up with a new and improved side, and you can see it doing quite well in the Prem. How bad would relegation be for Leicester City?
That's, again, a tough question. I've always said relegation for a club is never, ever good.
No.
It's never good. But for us, potentially, it could do us good. Potentially. But that would only be, if we go down and then obviously come straight back up again, like with a new manager, like a new team, like what Burnley have done, as you said. Just rebuilding like that way. But I think relegation for us wouldn't be good at all, because yes, Championship football, we probably would do well in the league Championship, and we'd hopefully get promoted. But you look at our wage list and all that, and all the big players we have, they'd all be gone. You look at Vardy, like next year, we'd probably want to keep him in the Championship, but he's on plus 100 grand a week.
Oh yeah, easily.
How are we gonna get these players to take wage cuts? We wouldn't be able to afford that wage in the Championship.
No.
And then again, another part is the financial side of getting relegated. We'd lose so much money. Obviously, Sky Sports, BT, we get a lot of money from that in the Prem. Championship, there would be nowhere near as much money coming from that.
No.
So I think partly it could be good, because then we're sort of taking a step back, rebuilding, and then hopefully coming back up and with a new team and a new project. But I think it wouldn't be good for the club in the we got the stadium expansion coming. I don't think we need that personally, but
no.
But relegation wouldn't be good for us. I would say.
No, all right, fair enough. So there we go. That's the downfall of Leicester City and kind of how to fix them. I can't call this how to fix Leicester City. I can't do it. So
there's so many factors that would come into that,
and I've already done it at least twice because I'm just depressed. So there we go. We'll return into the next part with who stays at the football club if we do go down. We are back from the break to come back and do a tier list of what players would Leicester City keep if they went down to the Championship. And obviously this is all hypothetical because Leicester City are not getting relegated. Don't clip that.
Well,
don't clip that. But we have 32 players on the screen, I do believe, and we have 3 tiers to put them in. The tiers are: he will stay, I'd like him to stay, but he won't. That middle tier of I'd like him to stay, but he won't. That's if they're a good player. So James Maddison, let's be honest, will go into that tier. I think that's fair enough to say that automatically. He is a very, very good footballer, and he is simply excellent. And obviously, we would all love him to stay at the football club. But there's no chance he stays at the football club because he's not going to be playing in the Championship. And then the bottom tier is just a go. I might start this off by putting somebody in that go tier. Do you want to guess who I'm going to put in the go tier?
Bertrand or Vestergaard?
Bertrand.
Should we just put both
Do
of
you
them
want me
in
to whack Vestiaire in there already? I was genuinely debating
Yeah.
starting the video with them both in there, but I didn't. Let's move on to a proper one then, who actually does have some debate on him. Patson Daka.
Okay. I if he wanted to stay, I'd love him to stay because he'd absolutely tear up the championship, in my opinion. And yeah, hopefully he'd have a good season. Then we'd get promoted, and then he'd be ready for the Premier League. That would be the ideal situation. But sadly, he's probably going to go, isn't he?
He probably will. Do you? So you think he will go if we go down? You don't think he will be happy to take that kind of wage cut?
Potentially. But I could just see like a foreign club coming in for him, or even another Premier League club, like if Everton stayed up or something. I don't know. I could see teams coming in for him. But I don't know how. Like, I don't know if he'd just accept that, like, he could come down to the Championship, have a good season with us, and
Bounce
I'm
back.
not sure. Like, yeah, but potentially. I'm not saying like he's definitely going to go in the summer, like as I would with like Maddison or Tielemans.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if I had to put money on it, he'd probably go. But yeah, I would love him to stay.
Fair enough. Right. So there we go. Patson Daka into the middle tier. Let's go for Boubakary Soumare.
Soumare, I've got again. He doesn't really offer much.
No.
He's not a great. He's got potential. He has good moments. I think in the Championship again, I'll be saying this about a lot of our players. In the Championship again, he would be one of the standout players. But yeah, he's gonna go either way. It's just whether I want him to stay.
For me, it's bottom tier because I just don't see him with a future, and also I don't even see it as possible that he would stay if we went down. Like Daka, I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I also I don't want him to stay either. He's been awful.
Yeah.
What does he offer? What is he?
He's not got energy. No. He's not really got pace either.
No.
But he's a big guy. Good physicals. He can dribble. He's got good dribbling. He can hold up the ball.
Okay.
He can pass. Not saying he's a world class passer, but he's a decent midfielder. He's strong. He's hard to get off the ball. He's good at tackling. He's not been a great signing for us, and he will go in summer. But I don't know. The question for me is whether I would want him to stay, because in the Championship he would play well. Like a lot of our players would, but I think he would play well.
So do you want him in the middle too?
But then again, if I had to keep like 10 players out of all of it,
he's not there, is he?
So I think just put him in the bottom.
Whack him in the bottom one because we need some. Where's he on?
It's a tough one. I'll probably be saying this about a lot of our players though. But,
yeah, of course. Fair enough. We'll move from him to. Let's go for Jose Perez, a man who you haven't criticised as much as I have in the past, but I can still probably imagine what the answer is going to be here.
Yeah, bottom tier go. He's. I don't dislike the guy. He came in for 30 million for that price tag. It's not been a good transfer at all.
No.
But I think, he, as a player when he played for us, he got a lot of stick. People didn't like him at all. But I always stood up for him. I think in his proper position, centre forward behind the striker. He would do a job, and he never really got that chance with us in that position, which is a shame. But there's absolutely no way he's going to stay with us if we go down. So
go.
Yeah,
he doesn't stay anyway. He's out of contract, isn't he? So he moves on in the summer regardless of what happens. Let's try and get somebody who I would personally put in the top here of he will stay. Because I'm confident he would stay if we went down. Harry Souttar.
Yeah, I've got him. I've definitely got him in stay. Obviously, he made the move from Stoke from the Championship to us in January, and and he'll be gutted that he's made the step up and now he's going to be stepping down again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. He will stay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't clip it up if he goes. But
I promise
I
I
think
won't.
he'll stay. I'd
Mm-hmm.
like him to stay. We know he's championship proven. He's done decent since he's come in the Premier League as well. But yeah, he'd be a starting centre back for us in the
Sure.
championship. And I still think for him, if we get relegated and he's playing for us, it's still a step up from Stoke.
Mm.
Because they're lower down in the championship, I think. But yeah, I definitely keep him.
Cool. There we go then. Let's move from him on to Carlos Soyuncu.
Soyuncu,
He's going,
this
isn't he?
season
Is that?
he's going. I think it might even already be agreed with Atletico. He's going this season. He's barely played other than in a few cup games and yesterday against Man City, where he was good. So I'm a big fan of him. I like him as a player. He's been good for us. Mismanaged this season though. There's absolutely no way he's going to stay, but I would like him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just unrealistic.
So go. I've whacked him
Yeah,
to go to just because there's Look, I'm not saying if we went down, I'd be 99.9% sure Maddison goes. Soyuncu, there's not even a single chance he stays. He's out of contract.
yeah.
He's already agreed with Atleti by the sounds of it. So yeah, he is into the go tier. Let's move from him on to Harvey Barnes.
Harvey Barnes, I've got him as go as well. I just think Newcastle or Tottenham come in for him and
Mm-hmm.
he goes. He's underrated in our team. Like he's got like 10 Premier League goals this season in a struggling side. He's not talked about much at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's a way he stays in the Championship, bearing in mind he can perform in the Premier League. Like even Everton come in for him. Any Premier League team comes in for him. Yeah, I think he
Mm-hmm.
goes. So,
Is it
but
because
yeah,
of
I would love it. I'd love him to stay though.
yeah? Is it one of them where there's just simply no chance of him staying that he goes into go, or do you think there will be a small chance he does stay and hence it's this?
There is a small chance. So
Hmm.
for me, I put him in the.
Do you want to put him in
I'd
middle?
love him to stay.
All right,
Yeah,
all right, fair enough. We'll move from him on to somebody else who I'm sure will share that tier with him, James Maddison.
yeah. He's probably
No
hundred
brainer.
percent that he goes.
Yeah.
If we go down, it's 100% that he goes because I mean, he's in the England squad. He's a top player. He's probably our best player. But yeah, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, would love him to stay. But there's absolutely no chance.
Yeah, of course. And let's go for Yuri Tielemans. Talk to me about Yuri Tielemans, what he's done for the football club, and is he another one that goes into that tier with Maddison and Barnes?
Yeah, Tielemans, I think he will go down as a legend simply for, he's given us a few good years. He's a top class player. Um, and obviously the FA Cup final, what a goal that was. Brought us one of the best days in this club's history. So yeah, I think, he's out of contract in the summer. If we go down, it's a no-brainer that he'll go. But yeah, he's a top player. Obviously, I'd love him to stay again. It's a similar one to Maddison, but yeah, obviously he's out of contract. He's not going to sign a new deal with us.
No.
If we're in the Championship. So yeah, he goes. Yeah.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another tier, as I've just accidentally swapped this to other. I'm going to create a new tier for us here. Add a row above. No chance of staying.
Yeah.
Because that's fair. Because people like
Then we put
Barnes,
Tielemans,
Maddison,
Maddison,
and Tielemans go in there.
Soyuncu.
But somebody would he go? Yeah, Soyuncu also goes in there. But would you? Is that should keep Perez and go because you don't even want him to stay anyway, do you?
Yeah.
The lads who you would like to stay at the football club, but just no chance. So there we go. We've got another tier in, and I know the colour system's gone now, but I don't care. Let's move from him on to. Let's go for Hamza Chowdhury.
Obviously he's been on loan at Watford in the Championship this season. It's I would take him back in the Championship for us.
Okay.
Um, he's not a bad player to have around, and he probably is Championship level.
He is.
Um, so I would take him. Whether he will come to us, Watford will probably buy him. To be
Hmm.
honest, they've got an option to. I think.
They do 6 million.
Yeah, so they'll probably do that. But if they don't, then I'd take him back. Yeah,
So is he? I'd like him to stay, but he won't.
yeah,
Right.
I'd say so.
Fair enough. Let's move from him on to Wilfred Ndidi, a man who has not been his best this season. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, his downfall's just been like it's been incredible. Like
Hmm.
2 seasons ago, 1 season ago, how long it was, he was arguably the best CDM in the Premier League. Like he
Hmm.
was so good at what he does. Whenever he got injured, you know, all Leicester fans were absolutely gutted because we knew
Definitely.
that
Hmm.
he was so vital to our team, and if we didn't have him, our win percentage wasn't very good. But if we had him in our team, our win percentage was incredible. Like he was so good, but since then he's dropped off, and I can't even explain his downfall. He's had a few injuries, but he's he's just not the same player anymore. And if we get relegated, there's no way he stays.
No.
He moves on. He gets a new challenge. Um, would I like him to stay? I wouldn't be dying for him to stay.
No.
You know, he probably would be given the championship again, as most of our players would be. However, I just put him in the go section, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
think again, I'm redefining it again. Go. Let's. If you're not keeping him in the Prem, whack him in go because you're not. I don't think you keep Wolf, do you? There's no chance you
No.
keep Wolf if you stay up, and even if you go down, you probably take the money and cash in. So yeah, Wolf Ndidi into the go category. We'll move on from him on to Dennis Pratt. Let's go quick fire on a couple now. What do you think for Dennis Pratt?
Um, it's a bit of a tough one. I've got him as go.
Hmm.
Um, I think a club probably comes in for him, and I think he's probably a little bit more ambitious, and he probably does go because he wants to get in the Belgium squad. Um, I put him as go, but equally, I would be happy if he stayed.
Hmm. Okay, so what is it? I'd like him to stay.
Yeah, I'd put him in that. Yeah,
Fair enough. That is Dennis Pratt, yes. Let's go from him on to Danny Ward.
Danny Ward, I'd put him down as stay, but I don't think strongly. I don't think like I'm not certain he's going to stay. I'm not certain he's going to go. I don't really
No.
know about it, to be honest.
Hmm.
It's a bit of a tough one with our goalkeeper situation. Um, but yeah, I'd put him in stay.
Okay.
Um, and then I put Iverson in stay as well, who
Both
I
into
think
they
would be
will
our
stay.
and I think Iverson would be our starting keeper in the championship.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We've done two keeps there, so we might as well go ahead and do the third one, Alex Smithies.
Smithies, I put him down as go. I think we potentially sign another goalkeeper in the summer,
Okay.
which means he would probably go. Um, but then again, if we sign another goalkeeper, then maybe Ward goes. You know, if Iverson's our starter, we sign a new one to be our backup. Ward potentially goes,
Hmm.
but it's a tough one. I'll just put Ward and stay, Iverson stay, Smithies go.
Smithies go. Fair enough. Let's move on from Smithies on to Johnny Evans, a man who's out of contract at the end of the season.
Evans, I'd put down a stay.
Uh,
Um,
Even with the contract
not
situation.
it. It's a tough one because you know, I just think for the championship, he not even as a player, as a guy to have around. Give him a 1 year extension. You know, I'm sure he'd take the wage cut.
Hmm.
I just think as a guy to have around, looking at our squad, there's virtually no leaders whatsoever. They're all quite soft. I think you need a guy like Johnny Evans around the changing rooms. We're seeing the impact that Casper's had leaving, not just him on the field, but his leadership. It's been missed so much.
Hmm.
And I think a player like Evans, you know, I think it would be nice to see him stay in the
Okay.
championship, even if he's not playing every week. just to have him around. But yeah, I personally would put him in the team.
Okay.
Obviously, it's dependent on the window we have, but yeah, I'd like him to stay.
Fair enough. I think that's possibly the first one I disagree with you on. I would probably put him in to go. I just think he's too injury prone nowadays. But if he's happy to take one of those more rotational roles, even in the Championship, and sort of go, if he wants to go into something like coaching, then yes, you could sort of do that in the Championship
Yeah,
with us.
yeah. I haven't put him in as stay because he's going to play every week for us and he's
No,
going to be amazing. I haven't put him down. Then I've literally put. I just think
the
as a
leadership
leader to have around in the changing room,
for sure.
potentially play every now and then. Come on if we're losing. No, come on if we're winning.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've not long to go. I think it wouldn't be a bad guy to have around.
Yeah, no, we're not doing Brendan Rodgers tactics here. We're not bringing on strikers if we're losing. Let's go for a man who isn't actually our player, but I wanted to put him in here anyway, just to sort of see. There's no chance of Tete staying, is there? Should I just whack him in there?
Just put him in go.
Yeah.
I don't think he stays. His first game against Villa was incredible, and he's not quite been the same since.
No.
I still think he's got the potential, but if he doesn't, perform between now and the end of the season, which he probably won't, then there's no chance we sign him. Let alone there's no chance he wants to stay, especially in the Championship. So yeah,
No.
it's a no-brainer.
Fair enough. I think if we stay up, I do still think there's a chance because I think we could get him
Yeah,
for like 5 or 10 million,
yeah.
and that's a bargain for a player like him because we won't need another
If
right
we
wing
stay
anyway.
up, yeah, I'd back him to stay.
Mm,
Because I still think he could be good for us.
for
Like,
sure.
you can't expect a new player like him to come in and hit the ground running.
No.
But yeah, if we go down, I don't think he stays, and I don't think we sign him.
No, fair enough. Let's move from him on to my favourite player, Kieran Gisbury Hall.
I've got him to stay.
Good.
Leicester lad. Can't imagine him anywhere else really. And he just would be a good player in the Championship.
Uh-huh.
He's a solid player in the Prem. He could be better. He's not been as good as he probably wanted to be this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he stays for sure. To be fair.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move from him on to Christensen, another one who I presume you're going to say stay?
Yeah, I put down a stay. He came in January. He's impressed since. He's a young left back with a lot of potential. And just because he's came in so recently, I see him staying, to be fair. And he would be a very good left back in the Championship.
I agree. I think you've said it to me before. You think he would be a beast in the Championship, and I agree. I think he would just absolutely tear up that league. So I think he will stay 100%. I think he'd want to stay. He's got a relegation release clause in his not relegation release clause, a relegation wage deductor in his contract. Same with Sutar, and yeah, I think he would be an excellent player in the Championship. Ricardo Pereira.
It's a tough one. He's, as a player, when he's fit, he is top level. Him in the 1920 season, he was just incredible. Best right back in the league, arguably top 2 for sure. I'd say with Trent, yeah. He was just so good, and he's just been so injury prone since. Obviously he's returned recently, and now he's out with another injury, a hamstring injury.
Mm-hmm.
But I put him a stay. I don't know what his contract situation is, but I think we've helped him out through these injuries. I think season in the Championship, help him build back his fitness wouldn't be a terrible thing. Because I don't think any other team is desperate to sign him. He's a great player, but because of how injury prone he is anyone else going to want to sign him?
Yeah,
probably not.
It's a weird one.
So I'd put him to stay.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. Let's go for another right back at the football club, Timothy Castagne.
Castagna, I put as go. He really impressed when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
Had a very good season. And he's a solid right back, He doesn't do much wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this season, I think he's been a little bit average. But he'll get his move in this summer. He'll probably go to Inter or something, and he'll probably turn into a world-class player.
Is it a straight go, or is it no chance of staying? I'd like him to stay.
I would like him to stay. Don't get me wrong, I would like him to stay, but I think there's no chance he stays.
Okay, so
in my
no chance of
opinion.
staying. Cool. All right. We'll move from him onto the final right back on the list, James Justin.
His injuries, there's a chance he stays because of his injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a likelihood a team in the summer comes in and says 15 million, we'd probably accept it, and he goes Premier League team. But I don't know if he's going to be fit by then. So again, I think he could stay, build back his fitness in the Championship with us, and be our starting right back.
Fair enough. I think if we are to keep both Justin and Ricardo, I'd be interested to see how that works out, possibly with Ricardo on that right wing.
Yeah.
But no, that would be a beast of a right-hand side. Let's move from Justin to Luke Thomas.
Thomas is a tough one again because there's probably 7 or 8 teams in the Premier League who could realistically come in for him in the summer.
Sure.
5-10 million, and he's probably gone. But equally, he probably wouldn't mind going down to the Championship. It's a tough one. It is a tough one.
If we
But
keep
if
Christensen, he
stays,
doesn't stay, does he?
Exactly, yeah. If he was guaranteed to be starting left back in the Championship, he probably does stay. But Christensen, for me, is ahead of him. So I just see someone like West Ham coming in for him, and I see him going.
Okay, so no chance of staying, just straight up go?
There is a chance of staying. I'd put him in the middle one.
I like him to stay.
I wouldn't mind him to stay. I wouldn't be against him staying. But he probably will go.
Fair enough. What about Daniel Amati, a man who is out of contract at the end of the season and has been poor throughout?
Yeah, I've got him down as go. He's been a bit of a servant for the club. He's been injured a lot, but we signed him
2016
in the year we won the league.
January.
I wouldn't be surprised if the club gives him another contract just because he's been around for so long. And he probably would be a decent player in the Championship. He's not a great player, let's be honest.
No.
He's a good defender. He's an okay defender, but he just can't pass the ball at all. But yeah, I think out of contract in the summer, he probably goes. Yeah.
Right, fair enough. A man who many of the people listening to this might not have heard of, but George Hurst.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, he probably goes. Yeah.
Do you think he does, even if we go down?
Yeah, he went to Portsmouth on loan. Where is he now?
Ipswich, I want to say.
He's
League One.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how well he's doing with Ipswich, to be honest. I haven't really been tracking it. But Portsmouth, he did okay. But yeah, I don't really. I wouldn't be desperate for him to be a part of our squad. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a part of our squad, but I'd rather he wasn't.
He's got 4 goals this season plus 1 assist. I think that's only been since January though. So yeah. Go, just straight up go.
I'd put him in go. Yeah.
Right, fair enough. Let's go for another striker at the football club and another English striker at that. Jamie Vardy.
I'd put him in stay. He's on massive wages.
Yeah.
He's on massive wages, but I think he'd take the cut. Because I think, last year his contract, I think he'd love to have a blast in the Championship. He knows himself he's not good enough for the Premier League anymore.
Yeah.
Championship, I think he still would get goals. And obviously he'd love all the banter from the fans and stuff.
Would, yeah.
And I just can't see him at another team unless he goes to like the MLS or something.
That's the thing.
But I just think Championship, that would be a perfect way for him to end his career at Leicester. Getting us promoted from the Championship, then he goes at the end of the year and has a good season. I think that would be a perfect way to sign off, and I think that's probably what will happen. But he might not want to take the wage cut.
No,
who knows?
It's the thing as well with Saudi Arabia this summer. Are they just going to come in and go, Vardy, you can have 20 million if you come here for a season, and he'll go, all right, I'm off.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me. I know it's Vardy. I know he loves the club, but that's a lot of money, and there's a level where you're rich, but there's a level above that, and if Saudi Arabia could offer that for Vardy, I wonder if he would want to take it.
Potentially, yeah, but I still would put him in the stay bit. You know, I think it would just be perfect if he stayed. And, you know,
For sure.
championship with us, and you know, he loves the lower leagues of English football, doesn't he? You know, he came from obviously non-league, so I think he loved the banter from the fans and stuff. I think he's gonna stay. You know.
Okay, fair enough. We will move from Jamie Vardy onto Kelechi Iheanacho.
Go.
Straight up.
I would like him to stay because I think he's a good footballer. What's his contract? He's nearly done, isn't it?
Next summer.
Next summer, yeah. I think we cash in on him this summer. You know, we get 10, 15 million. And yeah, I see him go.
Right, fair enough. What about Wout Faes?
I think he goes.
Okay.
You know, he wants to be a Belgium international.
Yeah.
He's good enough to be one. And I think he's ambitious. A club from the Premier League would take him, but then again, I would love him to stay. So I think go, but I would like him to stay
for sure. And then we've got 3 lads left. We'll start with Nampalys Mendy.
He's out of contract, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, I think go.
Straight up.
I'd like him to stay.
I'd like him to stay. All right.
But does he take a new contract in the Championship? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. All right, fair enough. And then we'll move from him on to Nathan Opoku.
Yeah, I'd get him involved in the squad. You know, he's on loan at
Liverpool.
Yeah, and he's been good. Yeah,
he has. Couple of goals.
He's got potential. You know, he's a young lad. Even if he's not starting for us, I just think have him around, have him in the squad. I think, yeah, I'd 100%. I'd take him
for sure. And then last but not least, Mark Albrighton.
For me, it's a no-brainer.
Keep.
Obviously, yeah, I'd keep. However, if West Brom buy him, they've got an option to, haven't they?
I don't know.
I think they might, but if they don't, you know.
I didn't think they did. They might do. I might have missed that.
I heard a West Brom fan the other day saying it's not likely that they're going to sign him because their owner doesn't have the money to, or something like that. So, if they don't sign him, then I'd love him to stay and play for us. I think he'd be good for us. He's hard working.
Yeah. It doesn't say there's any buy deal anywhere, so...
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'd keep him then.
Keep, for sure. I agree with that one. There we go. There is what Leicester fans would do if Leicester City got relegated to the Championship. What we will do is we'll take another short break here before we come back to grade potential managers. Right, we are back from another short break to come back and grade some managers. Obviously, currently, Leicester City have Dean Smith on a temporary appointment until the end of the season. So we have 8 managers in front of me who we are going to grade from A to F. We are grading them based on 2 things. One, how likely they are to come to the club. Now, obviously, we're not sure if Leicester are staying up or going down. It'll probably change from manager to manager. Obviously, some of the options on this club won't go to us if we stay up, and some the options on this list won't come to us if we go down. So we'll take that on a manager to manager basis, and then also we're going to grade them on how much we would want them to come to the football club. Let's start off with Mauricio Pochettino.
He's probably the best name on the list, to be honest. Very good manager with a lot of experience. Personally, for me, I mean, I would love him to come. I don't think it's very realistic. If we stay up, you know, it's potential. But you know, it's unlikely. If we go down, there's absolutely no chance.
No.
But I'd love him to come, but it's not very likely.
No. So in terms of the grading on how likely, obviously this we'll grade this even if we do stay up, because if we come down, it's just an F. It's just not going to happen. A to F if we stay up. How likely do you think he is to come?
Um, C or D
C
probably.
or D, and then how much would you like him at the football club? A to F.
A.
A.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's move on from Poch. Let's move on to from Poch, and let's go to the manager who is currently in charge of Leicester City. Now, obviously, we've only had one game sample size as of recording this, and that was a 3-1 loss to Man City. But we weren't that bad. Dean Smith, what do you think? Good luck.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
He's nice.
You know, he's got experience. You know, he did a great job with Aston Villa and the Brentford. Not so good with Norwich, but yeah, it's a tough one. I think if he does the impossible and keeps us up, it's harsh. But I would rather get someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit harsh. I know. Might not make much sense, but
I
then
know
I
what you mean.
think, right, then we start a new project with someone like Potter or Poch or someone.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go down, I'd be more inclined to keep him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
On the presumption he isn't just completely useless.
yeah, obviously if we go down with a fight. But yeah, it's a tough one. Um, Personally, I wouldn't be against him staying,
Mm-hmm.
whether we stay up or go down. I wouldn't be against him either way, unless we have an absolute stinker between now and the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd grade it likeliness to stay A.
Okay.
He'll probably want to stay either way.
For sure.
And how much I'd want it, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be delighted.
No.
But so I'd probably put like a C, yeah.
Yeah, it's around a C, isn't it? A C D kind of C minus kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's fine. If we go down, fair enough. If we've gone down with a fight, fair enough. If we stay up, it's a bit underwhelming, but fair enough. He has kept us up, so he probably does deserve it. We'll move on from him to a man who has been linked, Rafa Benitez.
Yeah. If we go down, I can't really see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
If we stay up, it's potential. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't love this to happen. But again, I wouldn't be against it happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say, for me, wanting it to happen, I'd probably put a C again.
Okay.
Wouldn't be against it. Wouldn't be delighted. Likeliness, he probably would take it. I'd probably put a B.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you think if we go down, he would come to us?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because he went down with Newcastle, didn't he? And he brought them up from there.
Maybe. I just don't want Rafa in general.
Yeah.
He just doesn't inspire me. So for me, it's like
he's not a bad manager though. He's got experience. He's done good jobs in the past. He didn't do as well with Everton.
Do you trust him with a rebuilding
with
job?
Newcastle? I wouldn't give him all my trust, but I wouldn't be against it. So that's why I'm not putting him in an A.
Okay.
Did I put him in C?
Sure. Can't remember.
I think I put him in a C and likeliness B.
Likeliness B. All right. Let's move on from him to somebody who I know is your favourite because I've heard you speaking. Yeah. Graham Potter.
Yeah. Done an excellent job at Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent job. Then he moved on to Chelsea, and it didn't work
really
out.
well.
But it was never going to work out. Let's be honest. He's a sort of manager for a smaller club that's looking to push into the top half and go for Europe. He's not the sort of manager to manage Chelsea and all their big egos. He's not that manager. For us, I think if we go down, he wouldn't come.
No.
If we stay up, potentially he would. I think he would. He'd have had a nice break. And it's probably between us and West Ham. But I think he probably would come to us. And I would love it to happen as well. If we stay up, he would hopefully be able to take us back to where we should be.
Mm-hmm.
So likeliness, I'd probably put a B. and me wanting it, I'd put an A.
Yeah, well, he's an A star, isn't he?
Yeah, he's probably my first choice.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably up there with Arne Slot for me, who I haven't put on this list. I think Arne Slot is an excellent manager. What do you think of? I haven't put him on the list. I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you think of Arne Slot?
I don't actually know a lot about him,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've heard good things.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. Um, Ralph Hasenhüttl. Do you want to say a couple of numbers, or do you want me to?
To summarise, I don't think he's a terrible manager.
He did lose 9-0 though,
But yeah, he
twice.
lost 9-0 to us. We signed two of the back line.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't want us to get him,
No.
get the manager who we beat 9-0.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
did
think
beat
he's a
him
bad
9-0, didn't
manager.
we? We did beat him 9-0.
He's not a bad manager, and he would come to us, so it'd be an A for us to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
But me wanting it, probably a D. If we got him in, I'd back him. If we got anyone in, I'd back him. But I wouldn't be against it.
I just want to change the rating system for this one. Instead of A to F, on a scale of 0 to 9, where do you put him for both how likely he would be to come and how much you want him? Just because I feel like changing up just for Ralph Hasenhüttl on a scale of 0 to 9. Because
What 9 being?
9 being
Oh god.
the best end of it, because only good teams score 9 goals. I know we're getting relegated with them, but still, have fun while I can.
I want to say 9 because we beat him 9-0.
I just wanted to get another reference in there. Ralph, we beat you 9-0. Jesse Marsh. Obviously,
It didn't quite go
one that
through.
very
It was close. I'm pretty sure he came to watch Leicester v Bournemouth. He was due at the training ground the next day to get the job. And then after watching the game, I mean, fair enough, anyone would. And I'm not sure what happened after that. It didn't go through. And he probably doesn't. If we stay up, he takes the job in the summer.
Of course.
But I wouldn't want him to.
No.
If we go down, he doesn't take it, and I wouldn't want him to either. So me wanting it, I'd probably put like a D or an E. And likeliness, no. Me wanting it, D or an E, and likeliness of him coming, it would be an A if we stay up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or like a D if we go down.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Patrick Vieira.
I would take it. Stay up or go down, I'd take it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did a good job at Palace.
He did.
It ended badly,
Mm-hmm.
but he had a good project going.
He did.
And I think he'd take the job. If we stayed up or go down, I think he'd take it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would take it, stay up or go down. So I'd put a B for an A for him wanting to take it, and a B for me wanting him.
Fair enough. And then last but not least, a man who Leicester fans know, not just you, as in Leicester fans in general, know all about, because he's been at the football club before. Twice, in fact. Nigel Pearson. Now, in terms of how likely you want him and how likely he is to come, again, this is one you look at in the Championship, because I don't think we even try and target this in the Premier League. And I don't think we really do in the Championship either, but I kind of do want him if we go down. So, yeah.
Yeah. If I would have taken him as an interim in the Premier League.
For sure.
But at end of season, if we stay up, we want someone with a bit more of a project like Potter or something.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't take him if we stayed up. If we go down, I'd be all over that. Excellent manager, did a great job of us. We wouldn't have won the league without him. We would have got, he brought us up, he kept us up, and then obviously we won the league the next year.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate how it ended. But yeah, stay up, he wouldn't come, and I wouldn't want him. Actually, no, stay up, he would come, obviously.
Yes.
But I wouldn't want him. But I think it's only really likely if we go down.
Yeah.
So, likeliness, probably a B or a C, and me wanting him, if we go down, it'd be an A.
Mm-hmm. Right. Fair enough. There we go then. There's grading the future Leicester City managers, and that is also the end of the podcast. Thank you for coming on, Leicester fans.
It's been a pleasure.
Of course, mate. It's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Leicesterfanz, Riversed, and exact same on TikTok.
The exact same on TikTok. Well, there we go, everybody. Thank you for watching this podcast, and I'll catch you all again in the next one. See ya!